Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Joining me right now on the phones, United States Senator John Cornyn. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. I hadn't heard any Ringo Starr in a long time, so enjoyed being with you.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. Let's talk a little bit about the Supreme Court. President Obama, of course, nominated Merrick Garland for the Supreme Court vacancy. There have been quite a few stories that have come out within the last 24 hours or so, mainly about some of your colleagues who have been a little more open. I'll read one headline here. A quarter of Republican senators now back meetings for Merrick Garland. Is this a crack that is starting to form in the Republican Senate, where beforehand it was a no-go for any Supreme Court justice from President Obama during this lame duck period?
Fair question, Chad. My own position starts with the premise that I can't, in good conscience, support President Obama making an appointment that will change the balance of the Supreme Court for the next 25 or 30 years while he's a lame duck president and on the way out of office, and especially at a time when we are in the midst of choosing the Democratic and Republican nominees for president, and the public, the American voter, will have a chance to cast their vote and to express their views on who should make that appointment to the Supreme Court. So while I understand that some of my colleagues may want to show some courtesy to Judge Garland in terms of having meetings, he's not going to be confirmed. And so for myself, I don't see the point of having the meetings with Judge Garland and leading people to believe that something's going to happen when it's not.
We're visiting with U.S. Senator John Cornyn here on the show. One of your colleagues yesterday, I believe, Senator Mark Kirk, came out and said that he might be willing to vote for President Obama's nominee. He said this, quote, "We need open-minded, rational, responsible people to keep an open mind to make sure the process works. I think if you just say I'm not going to meet with him at all, it's too close-minded." What would your response to that be?
Well, everybody is entitled to their own views. I don't share that view. And I would just say, Chad, for people who are really watching this closely, there's two people that I would suggest that are key to the current strategy, and that is Senator Chuck Grassley, who's chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I know his position is very clear on this, and Senator Mitch McConnell, and both of them have said this seat will not be filled during the lame duck last year of this president's presidency. And this really hasn't happened when we've had divided government since 1888. This is the same sort of policy that was advocated by Joe Biden back in 1992 when he was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the same policy that Harry Reid advocated in 2005 and Chuck Schumer in 2007 when George W. Bush was president. So this isn't anything new, and I think it's just naive to think that if the shoe were on the other foot, that there would be any different outcome.
Visiting with U.S. Senator John Cornyn. So just for the record, you have no plans at all to meet with Merrick Garland? That's correct. Okay. Now let me ask you this, and this is kind of a crystal ball type of question here.
Okay.
by all accounts, many reports out there, I guess, say that Merrick Garland is, for the most part, a moderate. Not great on guns, not great on the Second Amendment at all. Let's say, and I'm going to throw in a God forbid here, Hillary Clinton is leading in the polls close to November by about 40 points, 30 to 40 points. She looks like she is going to be the next president of the United States. Do you think the Senate rushes back at that point and says, okay, we need to vote on Merrick Garland? Because if Hillary Clinton's the next president, I would argue she would probably nominate someone more liberal and even younger than Merrick Garland. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there has been some speculation about that, but again, let me go back to the principle here, and that is that the voters who are casting their ballot for the next president should have a vote and a voice in who makes this nomination for a position that will change the balance of power of the court for the next quarter century or more. So I don't think it's consistent to say we'll come back after the election, and if it didn't turn out the way we wanted, then we will quickly, in a lame duck session, confirm Judge Garland. Judge Garland, by all accounts, is a decent person. But I would say for those who argue in favor of moderate judges, having been a judge myself for 13 years, I feel strongly that judges are not moderates, or the question is really about fidelity to the law. Are you going to enforce the law as written in the Constitution and the laws passed by the Congress, by the legislature, or are you going to operate as a super legislator wearing black robes? So telling me that somebody's a moderate judge doesn't give me a lot of warm fuzzies.
Visiting with U.S. Senator John Cornyn. Before I let you go, I have to ask you about the current Republican primary. You had the Speaker of the House who came out, I believe it was last week, and he gave a speech mainly over politics in America. And he wasn't just speaking about Republican politics. He was speaking about all politics. When you look at the current Republican primary, and yesterday you had all the candidates back away from this pledge to support each other. What are your feelings on the current direction of this primary season?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that we're not talking about the great issues that confront our country. The $19 trillion in debt. We're not talking about how do we save Social Security and Medicare. We're not talking about how do we keep businesses from moving overseas because of our archaic and self-destructive tax code. It's more personality driven. But I actually ultimately think that the voters are going to get this right. The big question is going to be who gets 1,237 delegates at the convention, if not before the convention, by I think it's June the 7th is the last primary election day. If nobody has them before then we'll go into a contested convention where we'll have 1, 2, maybe 3 or more ballots and see how this works out. But I think I'm sort of agree with Marco Rubio, who, after decided that maybe he wasn't being flashy or flamboyant enough or exciting or engaging enough, so he decided to start talking in different terms, and later on admitted that he was a little embarrassed in front of his kids. I just think we need to try to strive to take the high road, and unfortunately I can't say that this campaign has always done that. Real
quickly, do you think this heads to a contested convention?
That's what it looks like to me now, Chad. But I've been wrong about almost every prediction that I've made so far in this election, and I don't think I'm alone in that.
You and everyone else. Senator,
we'll just sort of stay tuned.
Senator, I appreciate your time, and we need to get you back on soon to talk more about the race, okay?
We'll do it. Thanks, Chad.
All right, thank you. That's U.S. Senator John Cornyn here on the Chad Hasty Show.